You're staring at your screen at 11:42 a.m. and the market's been open for 2 hours without a single trade from you. Your strategy says, wait, your rules say the setup isn't there, but your hands are restless and your heart rate is climbing while your brain screams at you to do something, anything, because sitting still feels like missing out. Every green candle feels like opportunity slipping away, like being left behind, like watching money evaporate while everyone else capitalizes. The trade you take isn't your A+ setup or even your B+ setup, just something to scratch the itch, and within minutes, you know you've made a mistake. There's a Japanese word that most Western traders have never heard, a concept so foreign to our culture that we don't even have a translation for it, ma. It means the space between things, the pause, the silence, the deliberate emptiness that gives everything else meaning. In Japanese martial arts, ma is the critical distance between two fighters. And in music, it's the silence between notes that creates the melody, while in architecture, it's the negative space that defines the structure. And in trading, it's the discipline that separates millionaires from the masses. What makes it devastating is that ma doesn't feel productive or like progress. It feels like doing nothing. And we've been trained our entire lives to believe that doing nothing is failure. This is the invisible force destroying your trading, and you don't even know it's there. Most traders believe success comes from action, from participation, from being engaged and active and involved. It sounds right, because it's how we're taught to approach everything in Western culture. Work harder, do more, stay busy, hustle. The trading world reinforces this constantly with screen time builds experience, and you need to take trades to learn. And successful traders are active in the market. What actually destroys traders isn't inaction, but the compulsive need to constantly do something. The inability to sit with ma, with a productive emptiness, creates a neurological pattern that guarantees failure. Your brain interprets stillness as threat, as wasted opportunity, as falling behind, which means you trade when you shouldn't, enter setups that don't meet your criteria, and force positions in conditions that don't suit your strategy. This constant action doesn't just cost you money, but rewires your brain to crave stimulation over success. You open your platform at 9:30 with a clear plan. Wait for your specific setup, trust the process, don't force anything. You're disciplined today, professional, different than yesterday. 10:15 rolls around and nothing's happened. The market's moving, just not in a way that fits your strategy. Other traders are active and you can feel it. The volume is there and price is moving and opportunities exist, just not your opportunities. Your chest tightens while your breathing shallows and the urge to participate builds like pressure behind your eyes. The rationalizations start flowing. The setup's close enough, this could work. If I manage it actively, I can't just sit here all day doing nothing. That word echoes in your mind like an accusation. Taking the trade feels better than the anxiety of waiting, so you do it. A B, setup at best. It goes sideways immediately, not quite hitting your stop, but not working either, just bleeding slowly. Now you're trapped in monitoring and managing and hoping, and this is the moment where your inability to embrace ma has hijacked your entire session. Meet someone we'll call Marcus, 37 years old, a former software engineer who left his job specifically to trade full-time. Intelligence isn't his problem. Analytical thinking isn't his problem. He's built 3 different trading systems and back-tested all of them rigorously and knows his win rates, average winners, maximum drawdowns. On paper, Marcus is prepared, professional, serious. One Thursday morning in November, he's watching the futures market when he notices his system gave 2 signals overnight while he was sleeping, both of which would have been winners. The frustration hits him hard because that's $600 in profit he missed because he wasn't watching. The market opens, and he's alert, ready, determined not to miss another opportunity. His first legitimate setup appears at 10:07, and he enters, and it works, a quick $180 winner in 14 minutes. His dopamine spikes because the system works. He's engaged, active, participating. Closing the winning trade, he immediately starts scanning for the next opportunity. Nothing appears for 30 minutes, then 45 minutes, then an hour. The longer he waits, the more restless he becomes. His brain still riding the dopamine from that first win and craving another hit. By 11:30, he sees something. Not his A+ setup, maybe a C+ at best, but it's movement and action and something. The position size is too large because the setup isn't as clean. The stop is tighter because the risk reward isn't as good. and it fails in 4 minutes with $215 gone. Now Marcus is frustrated because that loss just wiped out his morning gain plus some, which means he's red for the day. His cortisol is rising, his amygdala is activating, his prefrontal cortex is starting to go offline. Another trade comes 12 minutes later where he enters too early and exits too late. Another loss, then another and another. By 1 p.m., Marcus has taken 11 trades with 1 winner and 10 losses, and his account is down $847 for the day. Sitting in front of his monitors, watching his capital evaporate, everything inside him quietly breaks. When you take that first winning trade, your brain releases dopamine, not as a reward for the profit, but as a prediction signal. Your brain saying, this pattern works, so repeat it. The problem is your brain doesn't differentiate between a good setup and a mediocre one. It just knows you took action and got rewarded. When the next hour passes without another setup, your brain interprets this as a broken pattern, what researchers call a reward prediction error. Your dopamine neurons start firing irregularly, and you feel restless, anxious, driven to restore the pattern through action. Research on trading neuroscience shows that the compulsive need to trade, even when setups aren't present, activates the same neural pathways as addiction, your nucleus accumbens, demanding another hit from the brain's reward center. The prolonged screen time without productive action elevates your cortisol, and studies show that traders experience cortisol increases of up to 68% during periods of extended market monitoring. Without clear opportunity, this combination of dopamine craving and cortisol elevation creates what neuroscientists call a hyperactive arousal state, where your sympathetic nervous system is fully engaged in fight or flight. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for rational decision-making and impulse control, becomes suppressed in this state. You're not making decisions anymore, but reacting, chasing, desperately trying to feel productive. This is why perfect rules don't stop you from breaking them. Your brain isn't designed for for productive stillness, for strategic emptiness. Evolution designed it to interpret inaction as danger. And it will hijack your behavior to eliminate that feeling, even if it means destroying your account. Marcus forces himself to close the platform at 2:30 after 11 trades and 10 losers. Tonight, he'll journal, review what went wrong technically, refine his entry criteria. That's what he tells himself. The problem isn't technical but neurological. Marcus has built a trading system that requires him to wait for hours, sometimes full days, for the right setup, but he's never built the psychological capacity to tolerate His excellent strategy becomes worthless because he can't execute it consistently, which means this isn't trading anymore, but a battle between his system and his nervous system. And his nervous system always wins. Let me introduce someone else. Someone who started exactly where Marcus started. Her name is Keiko, 39 years old, also traded for 2 years before going full-time. Similar educational background, similar starting capital. Watching Keiko trade reveals something fundamentally different. She opens her platform at 9:30, reviews her watch list, sets her alerts, then closes the trading tab and opens a book. An hour passes with no alerts while she keeps reading. No anxiety, no restlessness, no urge to check. At 11:04, her first alert triggers, and she reviews the setup, but it doesn't quite meet her criteria, so she dismisses it and returns to her book. The second alert triggers at 1:17 p.m., and this one does meet her criteria, so she enters, sets her stop, sets her target, and closes the platform. The trade works, and she exits at her target 3 hours later with a $320 winner. One trade, 4 hours of waiting, zero emotional stress. What would shock Marcus is that Keiko takes an average of 3 trades per week, sometimes only 1, and her win rate is 59%. She's not more active than him, but dramatically less active. Yet over 12 months, she's up 61%, while Marcus, with his dozens of weekly trades and complex multi-time frame analysis, is down 19%. Keiko understands She's trained herself to see the space between trades, not as emptiness, but as strategy, not as inaction, but as discipline, not as doing nothing, but as doing exactly what professional trading requires. On paper, these two traders look similar with the same markets, similar strategies, comparable edge, but inside their brains, they live on different planets. Marcus's equity curve looks like a seismograph during an earthquake, with violent swings and sharp spikes up followed by devastating drops, while Keiko's curve is almost boring, with its steady upward slope Small, shallow pullbacks. Relentless progress. The difference isn't strategy, but their relationship with stillness. Marcus's inability to embrace Ma means he takes too many trades, most of them marginal setups that barely qualify. This creates what behavioral economists call variance chaos, unpredictable outcomes, long strings of losses, occasional wins that feel random. His nervous system never stabilizes because every trading session is a roller coaster. His cortisol stays elevated. His dopamine system cycles between craving and crashing. Over time, this doesn't just feel bad, but literally changes his brain structure. The neural pathways associated with impulsive behavior get strengthened, while the pathways associated with patience deteriorate. Trading becomes associated with stress and urgency in his mind. His amygdala fires the moment he opens his platform, and his decision-making quality collapses before he even takes a trade. Meanwhile, Keiko's embrace of Ma produces frequent small wins relative to her losses. Her dopamine system stays balanced. Her cortisol levels remain low. She's not more disciplined by nature, but has built a system that respects her neurobiology instead of fighting it. The strategy you can't emotionally execute because you can't tolerate the stillness it requires is mathematically worthless. Professional traders at hedge funds and prop firms design their entire approach around one principle: maximum efficiency through minimum action. They know that taking more trades doesn't create more profit, but creates more exposure to variance and more opportunities for emotional errors. Waiting is what they do, sometimes for days, sometimes for weeks, for their specific high probability setup to appear. This isn't patience in the motivational sense, but strategic application of Ma, understanding that the space between trades is where real edge lives. Every trade you don't take preserves your capital and your psychological stability, and every mediocre setup you skip is a win for your long-term survival. Retail traders measure productivity by activity, while professionals measure it by precision. Retail traders fear missing out, while professionals fear participating in low-quality setups. Retail traders chase what feels productive, while professionals embrace what is productive. And what's actually productive looks like doing nothing most of the time. A system built on Ma isn't about adding more rules or better filters, but fundamentally changing your relationship with time and stillness. Keiko doesn't trade to feel engaged, but to execute her edge, and she knows her edge only appears a few times per week. Her entire system is built around this reality with exactly 3 setups, not 5, not 10, just 3. When one of her setups appears and meets every criteria, she enters, and when they don't, she does nothing. 18 months of training taught her that the days she takes 0 trades are often her most profitable days, not because she made money, but because she didn't lose it. Pride comes from the trades she didn't take now. She's associated stillness with professionalism. She sees Ma as her competitive advantage. While Marcus is taking his 6th mediocre trade of the day, she's reading, studying, living her life, and her nervous system stays calm. When her setup finally appears, her cortisol is low, her prefrontal cortex is fully online, her decision-making is clean. Waiting doesn't require discipline for her anymore because she's rewired her brain to see waiting as the strategy. This is the difference between knowing you should wait and having trained your nervous system to tolerate it. The millionaire trader doesn't take more trades, but takes fewer trades at higher quality. Wealth isn't built through constant activity and engagement, but through strategic stillness, punctuated by precise execution. Marcus takes 40 trades per week, trying to capture opportunity, while Keiko takes 3 and actually captures it. And over 1,000 trades, Marcus's approach compounds errors, while Keiko's approach compounds precision. The discipline of Ma isn't passive, but actively choosing the productive emptiness over compulsive action, day after day, week after week, year after year. Most traders don't fail because they aren't smart enough, or didn't study enough, or don't have the right strategy. They fail because they couldn't learn to sit still, to embrace the space between, to tolerate Ma. Can you actually sit with stillness? Or does it feel like dying when an hour passes without a trade? And what happens in your body then? Does your chest tighten? Does your mind race? Does the urge to act become overwhelming? How many of your trades are strategic execution, and how many are just scratching the itch? And be honest, because when you review your last 20 trades, how many truly met all your criteria, and how many did you take because you couldn't stand doing nothing? Are you building a system around your edge or around your need to feel productive? Because those are 2 completely different things, and only one of them makes money. Your inability to embrace Ma might be destroying your trading, Or maybe it's protecting you from something else, from confronting yourself in the silence. You've been taught your entire life that success comes from action, from doing, from staying busy and engaged and productive. But trading requires the opposite: strategic stillness, productive emptiness, the discipline of Ma. And closing that gap doesn't require a better strategy, but training your nervous system to tolerate the space between trades. Stop measuring success by how active you were and start measuring it by how precise you were. Every trade you don't take when your setup isn't there is a victory. And every day you end flat. Because nothing qualified is a professional day. The space between your trades isn't wasted time, but where your edge actually lives. The traders who make it aren't the ones who take more trades, but the ones who learn to embrace Ma, to sit with the productive emptiness, to see stillness as strategy. They've built systems with clear criteria, 3 to 5 setups maximum, and then they've trained their nervous system to tolerate the wait. Success for them isn't measured in trades taken, but in criteria honored. Not in activity, but in precision. Years of learning taught them something. Trading only feels boring when you're doing it right. If your trading feels exciting, you're probably overtrading. And if it feels productive because you're constantly engaged, you're probably forcing setups. Real trading, profitable trading, sustainable trading feels like doing nothing most of the time because you are doing nothing most of the time. And that's exactly what separates you from the people who fail. The discipline in trading isn't in the execution, but in the waiting. Everything else, the entries, the exits, the profit, comes after you master Ma. Your next breakthrough won't come from taking more trades, but from taking dramatically fewer trades of dramatically higher quality. The strategy is just a map, but Ma is the path. And if you can't walk it without breaking, the map is worthless. Am I trading my strategy, or am I just feeding my need to do something? Because until you can sit with stillness, until you can embrace the productive emptiness, nothing else will change. The Japanese discipline that creates millionaires isn't complicated, but just simple enough that most Western traders never commit to it. Simple enough that it feels insufficient. Simple enough that it requires you to trust the space between more than the action within. That's the hardest discipline any trader will ever master. Not because it's complex, but because it asks you to become comfortable with the one thing our culture trains us to fear: doing nothing. The space between, the silence that gives everything else meaning. That's where millionaires are made.